welcome to another solo thoughts. Today, I want to talk about a particular subject about turn-based games and how I'm not the biggest fan, but I just want to discuss something very specific about them. Okay, so you see, I have never actually finished a turn-based game. Now, technically, I have with Steven Universe. There was a game that came out a while back on the Android. It's called Attack the Light. This, for some reason, worked for me. I was incredibly hooked. And one thing that I really liked about the turn-based combat is actually there was a timing system to get more damage. So right before your character attacked the enemy, if you timed it just right, it would inflict an extra little bit of damage. Now, I realized that Legend of Dragoon is sort of like this, but they actually give you a button prompt, and I didn't prefer that. I mean, I really like how they add engagement to it. However, I kind of preferred if the button prompt doesn't come up and I can just time it just based on the animations of my character. And so that to me was really good. I'm not saying Steven Universe Attack the Light was complex in any way, but there's something about it that worked for me. Something about its turn based. I think it was maybe just really fun, and the presentation was just great, and it was enough to keep me held in. I mean, I can't even remember moments where I'm like, this is getting boring. I mean, so, and also I want to add another turn-based game that I love, Ni no Kuni. Now here's the thing, I loved Ni no Kuni back when it first came out. I played it back in, I think it was 2014, and I just adored it. But I thought I finished it, but turns out I didn't. And so I tried going back, I got the remaster and everything, and for some reason I found it not appealing anymore. I don't know why. I think maybe I was playing it at the wrong time or something, but it's one of the best story presentations I ever seen. Just the hand-drawn animation, but I mean, I love that stuff, and along with familiars of your choice can evolve throughout the game, and that's something I haven't seen since Castlevania Curse of Darkness, unless you want to include Pokemon, which is something I'm not familiar with entirely. But and so I'm just wondering why these games work for me. I mean, I know that Ni no Kuni is not a traditional turn-based game, but you still have to take your turn. There is a timer, so I guess it doesn't really count. However, there's still wait time. And I just want to know, maybe perhaps there is a game out there, there are turn-based games out there that are smaller, that actually shows a good representation of turn-based. I want to try to find a way to get into turn-based. I want to find the appeal. I want to see what everybody likes about them so much, because even back in the late 90s, I was seeing these turn-based games coming out. I don't think I've ever saw Final Fantasy VII. If I did, I probably just disregarded it for whatever reason. However, the only turn-based games I was aware of back then was Pokemon, and I remember trying them. I don't remember how I got access to them, and I might have played them for a few minutes and then put it away. And every once in a while, I would try another turn-based game, and eventually, like I said, I would find games like Steven Universe Attack the Light that would actually keep me pulled in. I think the Rick and Morty turn-based game wasn't that bad, actually. I never finished it. I mean, I did put a lot of time into it. However, it just felt like it just never ended. I don't know. Maybe turn-based games are just too long, perhaps? Not sure. Maybe the combat just isn't engaging enough. Maybe there just isn't enough fun in it. I think maybe perhaps that turn-based games kind of need more of a mini-game structure. Because I guess maybe I look at turn-based games as just a huge mini-game, I suppose. And I guess after a while that mini-game just gets old. And so, I'm trying to think about another example here. So Legend of Dragoon was I actually really enjoyed it. The music was great, and I also had that the extra timing when you went into attack, so it added more engagement. Final Fantasy VII also has good music. However, it takes so long to get through a battle. It feels, and I believe there are ports that allow the battle time to speed up or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I need to look further into that. But Final Fantasy VII is also a really long game. That's just the thing. I'm looking for a turn-based game that is really short. Maybe 5 hours long. Something that establishes what a turn-based game is, and then it moves on. And maybe, perhaps, I can find the appeal saying, "Oh, so this and that, that and this," and I realize there are particular things like you need to use attacks that are going to weapons or attacks that have effects that are going to affect other enemies with said compromise of that attack of the bound of the spells or whatever kind of base, like let's just say some kind of creature is weak to lightning, then you use a lightning based attack to get the enemy knocked out, stuff like that. I mean, it is very interesting. And stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh, I always got lost. Whenever someone was explaining the card game Yu-Gi-Oh to me, they're like, "Yeah, this base enemy right here only works with only works in I'll try to think about an example. It's been so long since someone explained it to me. It was probably the early 2000s. And the Yu-Gi-Oh definitely has some very interesting properties to their enemies, at least from what I remember. But kids were always playing it, and card games is also just, I don't know, heck, I'm just trying to shuffle the whole idea in my mind, just because I mean card games are obviously kind of the same concept, except you can play with, against your friend. And even then, I think people tried to get me into that, and they're like, "Ah, man, I won." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I don't know. I know this video is just more about a rambling about me trying to toss back and forth ideas on why I just can't get into a particular genre, and I just don't want the simple answer of, "Oh, it's just not for you." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I want to know why. I want to take that further, because I don't want to just dislike something for no reason. I want to have a reason. That way I can properly back myself up whenever a game like Persona comes out." Persona has an extraordinarily long, well, it feels like they have so many games out. It feels like every year they're releasing something. But I got a good reason why I don't like Persona 5 is because there's too much dialogue, and apparently that amount of dialogue continues all the way through the game. But something like Ni no Kuni has a good pace. Now, I think maybe when I tried Ni no Kuni again, it was probably at a bad time. I felt like the boss fight was possibly lasting too long, and maybe when I go back, I'm like, "Oh, that wasn't even that bad." So perhaps, I think even, I think there are several games that I tried at a really bad time, like Returnal. So anyway, turn-based game. Another turn-based game I didn't mind was Mario vs. Rabbids. Now, there was a particular part where it got very grindy, where they were like, "Oh, you got to get all these gems if you want to be effective in battle," because it ended up being just a huge RNG situation where I was just running somewhere and they were just knocking me out. Unless there's just a particular thing I'm missing, it just seems like whenever I make a move, they just knock me out really quickly. So I'm assuming, like, well, I guess the game wants me to get overpowered so I can just kill these enemies in at least maybe 2 or 3 attacks or something. I don't know. That kind of discouraged me from playing, because I'm like, there's really not a whole lot here I can approach, and plus I only play this game once every. It feels like I go back at once every year, so I guess maybe that's my fault for being lost in the mechanics, because I only play it every once in a while. So, if you can somehow conjure or come up with maybe an explanation of why these particular turn-based games work for me, that would be great. And if you can respond, help me out here. Try to find a good turn-based game for me. I mean, it's something that, remember, it needs to be short. If you can find a turn-based game that's really short, I've heard that Chrono Trigger is actually short. So I'm trying to find a good copy of that, and perhaps I can maybe get it on the Switch. So I might just do that. Maybe I'll just bite the bullet, just buy. I think I tried Chrono Trigger a long time ago. I think I tried it on an emulator even in the maybe late 2000s, perhaps. I don't remember much about it. It did the aesthetics look cool, the design and everything. But other than that, I personally didn't see the appeal once again. So, turn-based games is not really the only thing that I find that I can't find the appeal for. Like story-based video games similar to Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, Until Dawn, but I don't know. I feel so I'm so video game oriented, like gameplay, combat is what I prefer. In these games, you just can walk around and you're pretty much just doing the exact same thing that everybody else is doing. There's not really a whole lot of creative freedom I can put into that game because there's only so many things you can input into it. And maybe that's what I just like exploring around into realms that most people are not going into, I suppose. Yeah, I like feeling like an explorer in a video game. If I go over here, will I discover something different? Or will I discover something different finding a boss without dodging and not taking damage? And right now, that's pretty much the only way I've been able to explore games in a very different way. And that's why I've been doing it a lot lately. If you go to Play It Like Dark Souls playlist, you'll notice that I'm doing it with several different games: Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4, Tiny Thor, and now currently Final Fantasy 16. Just finding boundaries that people haven't explored, and it's actually fascinating to me, and I want to further the conversation. Sorry, I didn't want to. I didn't want the conversation to go into that direction, but perhaps. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up before I go into another unrelated discussion. So I'll repeat the question: What turn-based game out there is short and works well? Other than that, I hope everyone has a glorious day, glorious weekend. Talk to you later.